Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
Althera's city of Kaltra gleamed in the evening light, a towering marvel of metal and glass under a dusky purple sky. Alien citizens milled about, each one adorned in layers of intricate, shimmering fabrics, indicative of their social status and family ties. Among them was Rolana Vel, a striking woman with emerald green skin and deep amber eyes that hinted at intelligence and defiance. Though her attire and poised demeanor marked her as part of Althera's noble class, an undercurrent of tension flickered in her gaze. Rolana's family had been pressuring her to marry for years, constantly urging her to take a noble husband and elevate the family standing. Yet the idea of binding herself in a union purely for tradition felt suffocating. She had fended off suitors for as long as she could, but with the annual Noble Gala approaching, her family had given her an ultimatum: find a suitable husband or prepare to be betrothed to the infamous Lord Tevrin, a powerful but cold-hearted suitor with an unsettling reputation. Frustrated, Rolana left her family estate in search of solitude, winding her way toward the bustling lower sector of Kaltra. In a quieter corner of a local marketplace, she noticed a human man negotiating with a merchant. His unassuming presence and casual stance contrasted with the more rigid, ceremonious Altherians. Tall and broad-shouldered, with warm brown eyes and dark hair, he stood out not for his appearance, but for his calm aura amidst the marketplace chaos. As she watched, she heard snippets of his conversation, detecting a note of frustration as he talked with the merchant about finding work. His Altherian was slightly accented, though fluent enough to carry a confident negotiation. Without fully thinking it through, Rolana approached him. "Excuse me," she began, her tone direct, yet softened by curiosity. The human turned to her, his brow slightly raised in surprise. "Yes." She took a deep breath, trying to ignore the part of her mind that screamed she was making a terrible mistake. "I have a proposal for you, human. Would you consider pretending to be my husband?" For a moment, silence hung thick in the air. Then he laughed, a warm, genuine sound that caught her off guard. "Is that right?" he asked, clearly amused. "Usually, I'd need more of an introduction before getting married. But go on. I'm listening." Rolana's cheeks flushed a darker shade of green. She had clearly underestimated how different humans were. Altherian men would have reacted with shock or annoyance. His calm demeanor threw her off. "My name is Rolana Vel," she said, trying to regain her composure. "I am of noble descent, and my family expects me to present a husband at the annual Noble Gala. But I have no desire to marry under their terms." "And you think a stranger will help with that?" he asked, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Not any stranger. You." She held his gaze. "You clearly know your way around Altherian society, at least enough to blend in. I need someone who can act the part. I will pay you well, and all I ask is that you appear with me, just for the gala." He considered her for a long moment, the amusement fading as he weighed her words. "All right," he said finally. "I'll consider it, but let's establish terms. My name's Nathan, by the way. Nathan Cole." They moved to a nearby cafe, where over a shared drink, they discussed the details of their agreement. Rolana insisted that their relationship remain strictly business. There would be no physical intimacy, and Nathan would follow her lead on matters of etiquette. Rolana would pay him handsomely, with half up front and the other half after the gala. Nathan's role would end the moment they departed from the event. As they shook hands, both felt an unexpected charge, a flicker of something neither anticipated. Rolana dismissed it as nerves, while Nathan couldn't help but wonder what he was getting himself into. With the terms set, they prepared to begin the strangest job either had ever undertaken. The following day, Nathan arrived at Rolana's family estate, a sprawling structure on the outskirts of Kaltra, surrounded by towering silver spires and shimmering gardens. The estate was a symbol of Rolana's noble lineage, every corner meticulously maintained, every wall adorned with rich tapestries. Nathan felt the weight of its grandeur, but masked his awe with a steady, professional demeanor. Rolana met him in a private parlor, wearing a more casual, yet elegant robe in shades of sapphire blue. Her eyes held a mix of determination and doubt, as if unsure she'd made the right choice by enlisting him. "You're on time," she remarked, her voice sounding more impressed than she intended. "Professionalism, right?" he responded with a slight grin. "So, where do we start?" She hesitated, then handed him a small, silvery booklet, the Altherian Handbook of Noble Etiquette. "If you're to convince anyone, you'll need to learn these gestures, phrases, and customs," she said. "We'll start with the basics and work up to more intimate displays." They spent the next few hours immersed in the handbook, with R'hllana guiding Nathan through Altherian customs that were strange, even baffling, to him. In Altherian society, subtle gestures carried layers of meaning. A tilt of the head indicated respect. A hand placed over the heart signified sincerity. Words like Velharn were reserved for close partners, meaning my heart. And Zithan was a term for admiration. Touch was minimal in public between partners, but essential to appear convincing. Nathan needed to become comfortable with light touches, arm linking, and even a brief kiss on the forehead to signify affection, something far removed from his usual mannerisms. Each practice required him to watch her closely, his movements tentative but quickly adapting. Despite her formal instructions, R'hllana couldn't deny the ease with which he learned, nor the way her heart skipped each time he touched her arm or met her gaze. As they practiced, their conversation drifted from etiquette to more personal topics. She revealed bits about her family's constant meddling and the rigid societal expectations she despised. "I've always wondered if life could be more free," she admitted. "Altherians live by tradition. We don't question it, we conform." Nathan, who had fought in wars and roamed multiple alien worlds, spoke of his own past. "Freedom isn't a given, especially in places like this. But I believe it's worth fighting for, even in small ways, even pretending." These small confessions created an unspoken bond, leaving R'hllana to wonder if she had found more than an actor for her charade. Nathan's warmth and easygoing nature brought out her own vulnerable side, a side she rarely showed, even to herself. By the time dusk set in, R'hllana suggested they attempt a more intimate gesture, the forehead kiss. Nathan hesitated, aware of the shift in atmosphere between them. "Remember, this is for the gala," she reminded, but her voice faltered as he stepped closer. He brushed her forehead with his lips, a gesture that was both gentle and sincere. The warmth lingered between them, an electric tension sparking with undeniable attraction. They parted in silence, but each was acutely aware of the unspoken emotions blooming between them. As their practice ended, R'hllana felt the weight of their arrangement more heavily. She thought she was immune to affection, to the thrill of romance, but Nathan's steady presence had begun to chip away at her defenses. "We're ready," she announced, though the words sounded more like an attempt to convince herself. "Thank you, Nathan. You've done well." Nathan nodded, concealing his own growing feelings. "I'm here to make this as convincing as you need," he replied, but his voice carried a sincerity that hinted at something deeper. As he left, R'hllana watched him go, her heart conflicted. For the first time, she wondered if her carefully constructed arrangement might hold the key to something more real than she had ever anticipated. The evening of the annual Noble Gala arrived with Althera's sky a dusky blend of pink and gold, casting a serene glow over the Vel family estate. The gala was held in the main hall, a sprawling space decorated with crystal chandeliers that cast shimmering reflections onto the silver and sapphire walls. Noble guests, each wearing richly adorned robes and intricate jewelry, mingled as soft music played in the background. Nathan, now outfitted in traditional Altherian attire, a dark, tailored suit accented with silver threads and a shimmering sash, stood beside R'hllana, his posture poised yet slightly tense. She appeared next to him in a deep green dress that hugged her figure gracefully, with glinting ornaments that complemented her emerald skin. As they walked arm in arm into the grand hall, Nathan felt the eyes of countless nobles upon them. R'hllana leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "Remember, tonight we are not just allies, we are partners." Nathan smiled reassuringly. "I'm ready. Just lead and I'll follow." Their arrival created an immediate stir among the guests. Many had known R'hllana for years and were shocked to see her finally attending with a husband. As they moved through the hall, Rolana introduced Nathan to various dignitaries and noble families, all the while keeping her composure. Nathan followed her lead, adopting the Altherian mannerisms they had practiced, nodding in subtle acknowledgement and offering respectful phrases in her language. One noblewoman, Lady Vaila, regarded Nathan with curious skepticism. "A human, Rolana? And you're certain he's suitable?" Nathan responded calmly, "My heritage may be different, but my respect for Altherian customs is genuine." The crowd around them murmured in approval, and Rolana couldn't help but admire his composure. Through each interaction, Nathan's gentle charm and attentiveness impressed her family and guests alike. Rolana felt a strange pride in his adaptability and poise, a sentiment that went beyond their mere arrangement. As the evening progressed, a familiar, unwelcome face emerged from the crowd. Lord Tevrin, a tall, pale Altherian man with cold silver eyes and a calculating expression. He had been pursuing Rolana for years, convinced that her reluctance was merely a matter of time. With a thin smile, Tevrin approached them. "Rolana, and who is this unexpected addition?" His tone was polite, but laced with disdain as he assessed Nathan. "Nathan Cole." Nathan introduced himself with a confident nod, mirroring Altherian formalities flawlessly. "Rolana's husband." Tevrin's smile faded, replaced by an icy glare. "Is that so?" he sneered. "I was under the impression that Rolana's standards were higher." Nathan sensed the hostility, but remained calm, locking eyes with Tevrin. "I suppose standards are a matter of perspective, Lord Tevrin," he replied, his voice steady. "In my experience, respect and honor count for more than lineage alone." Rolana, both proud and touched by Nathan's defense, placed a hand on his arm, a subtle gesture of partnership. Tevrin, visibly irked, clenched his jaw but made no further comment, turning away with a dismissive wave. Rolana and Nathan continued mingling, sharing quiet conversations and discreet touches that seemed increasingly genuine. As the night wore on, they were drawn closer by a combination of their ruse and the undeniable chemistry blossoming between them. At one point, Rolana felt the weight of the evening press upon her. Nathan, sensing her tension, reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Their fingers lingered together, the warmth of his touch calming her nerves. She glanced up at him, surprised by the comfort his presence brought. "Are you all right?" he asked softly, his gaze filled with concern. She nodded, struggling to keep her emotions in check. "More than all right," she whispered back. In that moment, they weren't simply playing roles. They felt connected in a way that went beyond pretense, the boundary between performance and reality blurring into something achingly real. As the evening's festivities reached their peak, a formal dance was announced. Rolana hesitated, but Nathan offered his hand, his expression gentle and inviting. She accepted, and they moved onto the dance floor. Under the soft lights, they glided in sync, their movements flowing together effortlessly. The atmosphere was intimate, and for the first time, Rolana allowed herself to relax completely, letting the music guide her as she leaned into Nathan's embrace. Their proximity stirred emotions they had both been trying to suppress, the tension building between them undeniable. When their eyes met, a silent understanding passed between them, a realization that this connection was more than an arrangement. This was real. As the dance ended, Rolana and Nathan shared a quiet, lingering moment. She was about to speak, to say something, anything, that might capture the whirlwind of feelings she'd been experiencing. But before she could, her family members approached, their expressions pleased and approving. "Your husband is quite the charming addition," one of her relatives remarked. "We hope he'll be with us for many years to come." The comment brought Rolana back to reality, reminding her of the original terms of their arrangement. The evening was almost over, and after tonight, Nathan's role would be complete. Yet, as she looked at him, her heart wrestled with conflicting emotions. Could she really let him walk away after this? Nathan, too, was caught in a maelstrom of feelings. He had agreed to play a part, but he hadn't expected to feel so much. As the gala wound down, they exchanged a brief but meaningful glance, both wondering if this arrangement would truly end once the night was over. The gala had ended, and the guests gradually left the Vel estate, casting approving nods toward Nathan and Rilana as they departed. Their public facade had been flawless, leaving even Rilana's family with newfound admiration for her husband. But as the last of the visitors disappeared into the night, the grand hall became quiet, and the weight of their arrangement settled heavily between them. Rilana and Nathan returned to her private quarters, where the initial plan had been to discuss his payment and formally end the arrangement. Yet, as they stood alone in the dimly lit room, both found themselves struggling to detach from the roles they had so deeply embodied. Silence hung in the room as they exchanged awkward glances. For the first time, the lack of an audience made their connection feel both intimate and vulnerable. Rilana, who had kept her composure throughout the night, felt her resolve slipping. She cleared her throat, gathering her thoughts. "Thank you, Nathan. Tonight was more than I could have expected." He looked at her, a slight sadness in his eyes. "It was my pleasure, Rilana, more than you know." Their words were formal, yet their tone was laced with a longing neither could hide. There was an undeniable pull between them, a tension that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. For a brief moment, they stood on the edge of something uncharted, their gazes locked, neither daring to speak what lingered in their hearts. Rilana felt the urge to share the depths of her inner turmoil, something she had never shown anyone, not even her closest family. Taking a tentative step toward Nathan, she softened her tone, her voice barely above a whisper. "Nathan, this might sound strange, but tonight, with you, I felt free for the first time in years." Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. "I didn't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. I could just be." Nathan listened intently, the openness in her words touching him. "I understand," he replied. "For a long time, I was used to just following orders, pretending to be this or that. But with you," he hesitated, his own emotions surfacing, "I felt like I belonged." Their confessions created a powerful sense of vulnerability, the barriers between them dissolving as they acknowledged the depth of their connection. For the first time, Rilana realized that what she felt for Nathan wasn't just gratitude. It was something far more profound. Their confessions hung in the air, unspoken emotions finally acknowledged, but unresolved. Rilana, caught between gratitude and affection, instinctively reached out, her hand resting on Nathan's arm. Her heart raced as she searched his face for any hint of rejection. He didn't pull away. Instead, he gently placed his hand over hers, his thumb tracing small, reassuring circles. The warmth of his touch ignited something within her, a surge of courage that made her lean in, closing the distance between them. Before she could second-guess herself, her lips met his, a soft and tentative kiss that spoke of unspoken desires. Nathan responded, his hand moving to the small of her back, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, their mutual longing spilling forth in an embrace that was as tender as it was passionate. As they parted, both were left breathless, their eyes wide with the realization of what they'd just shared. The line between pretense and reality had vanished, leaving them standing in the midst of something entirely new. But as the initial rush of emotion faded, doubt crept into Rilana's mind. She had built her life around control and self-preservation, and allowing someone in so intimately felt like opening herself up to potential heartbreak. The kiss had felt perfect, yet the reality of her societal obligations came crashing down. She took a step back, struggling to regain her composure. "Nathan, this wasn't part of the plan. We were supposed to end this after tonight." Nathan's face fell, the hurt evident in his eyes. "I know, but, Rilana, I don't want to pretend anymore. Not with you." The vulnerability in his voice nearly undid her resolve, but the thought of disappointing her family or, worse, binding him to a life of noble restrictions made her hesitate. How could a human truly fit into her world? Unwilling to face the confusion in her heart, Rilana forced herself to pull away. She murmured a quiet good night and left him standing alone in the room, the weight of her decision pressing down on her with every step she took. Nathan watched her go, feeling the sting of rejection, yet understanding her struggle. He had come to Althera as an outsider, and though he had begun to feel something profound for Rilana, He knew he could never demand more than she was ready to give. For now, he respected her boundaries, despite the ache that lingered in his chest. Later, alone in her quarters, Rolana sat by her window, watching the stars and grappling with the storm of emotions inside her. She wanted to trust Nathan, to open herself up fully, but the fear of vulnerability and the pressure of tradition made her pause. And yet, deep down, she realized that Nathan had awakened something within her, a yearning for freedom and companionship that she could no longer ignore. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the Vell estate, filtering through tall windows and illuminating the rooms with a soft, amber light. Nathan had spent a restless night, his thoughts plagued by the intensity of his feelings for Rolana and the uncertainty of what came next. Part of him wanted to respect her boundaries and walk away, but another part, a stronger, deeper part, yearned to reach out and break down the walls she had so carefully constructed. Nathan decided he couldn't leave things unresolved. He wanted Rolana to know that what he felt was real, and he needed to know if she felt the same. Determined, he made his way toward the garden where Rolana often went in the mornings. Nathan found her sitting on a stone bench, gazing out at the meticulously groomed flowers and winding pathways. Her posture was tense, as if she were bracing herself for an internal battle. He approached her quietly, his footsteps soft on the stone path. She looked up as he neared, her amber eyes reflecting a mix of surprise and trepidation. "I know this isn't easy for you," Nathan began, his voice gentle yet resolute. "But last night that wasn't just a job to me. What we shared felt real. I need to know if it meant something to you too." Rolana looked away, her expression conflicted. "Nathan, it's not that simple. My life here, my obligations, it's not something you can just be a part of, not without consequence." "Maybe I'm willing to face those consequences," he countered, his voice firmer now. "Maybe you're worth it." Rolana's heart pounded, torn between the fear of defying her family's expectations and the overwhelming desire to embrace the love she felt blossoming for Nathan. She had spent years conforming to Altherian society's demands, hiding her true self, and doing everything to avoid emotional vulnerability. But here was a man who saw her beyond her noble status, who valued her for who she was, not what she represented. "I've never been allowed to make choices based on what I want," she admitted, her voice wavering. "I've been bound by traditions and expectations for so long that I don't know how to be anything else. But with you, it's like I finally see a glimpse of who I could be, and that terrifies me." Nathan stepped closer, his expression tender. "You don't have to be afraid, Rolana. I don't want you to change for me. I just want you to be happy. If that means I walk away, I will. But if there's even a chance you want this too, then tell me. I'm here." For the first time in her life, Rolana felt the courage to make a choice based solely on her own desires. Her family's expectations, the weight of tradition, and her fear of vulnerability all seemed to fade as she looked into Nathan's eyes. "I want this, Nathan," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I want us." Relief and joy flooded Nathan's face as he took her hands, pulling her into a warm embrace. The world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them in that moment of mutual understanding and affection. Their connection felt like a rare, fragile flame, something beautiful that they both knew they would fight to keep alive. Over the following days, Rolana and Nathan spent more time together, no longer constrained by the roles they'd once played. They talked openly about their dreams, their fears, and the challenges they might face as a human Altherian couple. Their bond deepened with each passing day, transforming from a tentative alliance into a profound and passionate love. They discussed ways to bridge the gap between their worlds, from Nathan learning more about Altherian culture to Rolana exploring life beyond the restrictions of her noble heritage. Each step brought them closer to the life they both yearned for, a life of freedom, companionship, and shared adventure. However, word of their relationship soon spread through Altherian society, reaching the ears of those who saw their union as a threat to tradition. Among them was Lord Tevrin, who refused to accept that Rolana would choose a human over him. In a public confrontation, Tevrin approached Rolana and Nathan during a gathering, his tone laced with derision. "Rolana, Have you truly fallen so far as to bind yourself to an outsider? Have you forgotten the honor of your family name? Rilana held her ground, her voice calm but unwavering. Tevrin, I have chosen a life that brings me happiness and purpose. That is an honor I will not apologize for. Tevrin sneered, his gaze turning to Nathan. This human has no place among us. He will ruin everything you've worked for. Nathan, unfazed by Tevrin's hostility, met his glare with quiet defiance. Respect is earned, not inherited, and I respect Rilana enough to stand by her, regardless of the obstacles. Rilana's heart swelled with pride, her love for Nathan reaffirmed by his willingness to stand with her against those who sought to tear them apart. The confrontation with Tevrin left Rilana and Nathan more determined than ever to forge a life together. In a surprising turn, several other noble families voiced their support for the couple, seeing their union as a symbol of change and progress in Altherian society. Inspired by their courage, a few younger nobles began speaking out against the rigid traditions that had long governed their lives, seeking a future built on choice and understanding. As Rilana and Nathan stood together, hand in hand, on the balcony of her estate overlooking the city of Caltra, they felt the magnitude of their journey. They had defied convention, braved their own fears, and discovered a love that transcended boundaries. "Are you ready for this?" Nathan asked, a gentle smile on his face as he looked at her. Rilana smiled back, her heart full of joy and resolve. "With you, I'm ready for anything." They shared a final, tender kiss, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. In the days following the public confrontation with Tevrin, Rilana and Nathan's relationship became the topic of heated debate across Altherian society. Some viewed their union as an affront to tradition, while others saw it as a long-overdue step toward progress. Despite the mix of opposition and support, they remained undeterred, drawing strength from each other's unwavering commitment. However, Rilana's family summoned her for a serious discussion. The Council of Altherian Elders, who had observed the situation quietly, were rumored to be considering a formal ruling on their union. Rilana knew that in Altherian history, no noble had ever taken a non-Altherian partner, let alone a human. The council convened in a grand hall filled with intricate tapestries and symbols representing centuries of Altherian legacy. Rilana and Nathan stood side by side, facing a panel of elder nobles with expressions ranging from stern disapproval to faint curiosity. The head elder, a dignified figure with silver-flecked skin and piercing eyes, spoke first. "Rilana Vel, daughter of noble lineage, do you understand the weight of your choice? By aligning with an outsider, you challenge not only tradition but the very fabric of our society." Rilana met his gaze with calm defiance. "I understand, Ildava, but I also believe that our society's strength lies not in its isolation, but in its capacity to grow and adapt." The elder's eyes narrowed, his tone hardening. "And you, human, what can you offer Althera that would justify this defiance?" Nathan stepped forward, his voice steady and respectful. "I don't claim to be one of you, but I can promise you this. My loyalty and my respect for Rilana and your culture are unbreakable. I may not be Altherian, but my heart is true. I love her, and I will stand by her, no matter what." The hall filled with a charged silence as the elders exchanged glances, clearly divided. After a tense pause, Elder Varen finally spoke. "We will allow this union, but know that you tread uncharted ground. Your actions will be watched closely, for better or worse." With the council's tentative acceptance, Rilana and Nathan's bond had received a measure of official recognition, a groundbreaking shift in Altherian society. Relief washed over them, and they left the hall, hand in hand, ready to begin the next chapter of their lives. Back at the Vel estate, Rilana's family hosted a small gathering to celebrate the council's decision. Her relatives, though initially skeptical, began to warm to Nathan, seeing his genuine love for Rilana and his respect for their culture. The evening was filled with laughter, toasts, and soft music, a stark contrast to the rigid formality of the earlier council meeting. As the celebration wound down, Rilana and Nathan stole away to the garden, where they shared a quiet, intimate moment under the starlit sky. Rilana felt a weight lift from her shoulders, finally allowing herself to embrace her love without reservation. Nathan took her hand, his eyes filled with admiration. "I never imagined I'd find a home here," he murmured. "But with you, it feels like I belong." Rilana smiled, her heart swelling with happiness. "You do, Nathan. You always have." In the following weeks, Rilana and Nathan decided to mark their union with a ceremonial vow, blending Altherian and human traditions in a symbolic gesture of unity. The ceremony was small yet powerful, attended by close friends, supportive family members, and a few daring nobles intrigued by this new alliance. Rilana wore a flowing Altherian gown adorned with elements symbolizing courage and resilience, while Nathan wore a custom outfit that honored both human and Altherian designs. During the ceremony, they exchanged vows that spoke of mutual respect, love, and the commitment to face life's challenges together. Their pledge symbolized not only their love, but also their dedication to bridging their worlds, a promise that resonated deeply with those in attendance. With their union solidified, Rilana and Nathan embarked on a journey across Althera, sharing their story and encouraging others to look beyond tradition. Their love story became a beacon of change, inspiring both nobles and commoners to rethink what it meant to honor one's culture while embracing new perspectives. Over time, Rilana and Nathan's influence reached beyond their immediate circle. Their openness led to more discussions around inclusivity and acceptance, slowly shifting societal norms. Young Altherians who once felt constrained by rigid expectations found new courage to follow their hearts, and humans on Althera began integrating more comfortably into Altherian society. Years later, Rilana and Nathan stood together on the same balcony where they had first committed to a future together. Their love had withstood the tests of time and tradition, a bond that had inspired others to see the world and each other with new eyes. As they gazed out over the city of Kaltra, now more vibrant and diverse than ever, Rilana leaned into Nathan, content and fulfilled. "We did it," she whispered, a smile of pure joy on her face. Nathan kissed her forehead, his voice filled with love. "Together, we changed everything." And with that, they stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, knowing their love had, and always would, transcend every boundary.